Welcome to our seminar. I'm Ilya Reznikov. I'm CTO Europe at Svitla System. And first of all, let me say several words about Svitla System company who present this seminar. Svitla System is a global digital solution company with over 20 years of industry experience. We are headquartered in California, United States of America, but we have more than 10 global locations, where the biggest ones in Ukraine, Poland, Mexico, Argentina, and others. We have more than 1,000 top tech talents, and we have already more than 5,000 completed projects. Our mission is to advise and implement modern sustainable solutions for our clients using all modern technologies, using powerful cloud technologies. Also, we are a member of AWS partner network, and we have AWS Advanced Tier Service partner level. It means that we have enough skilled and certified engineers and solution architects who are able to provide help in designing, deploying, and implementing your cloud infrastructure, supporting you in cloud journey. And we provide services in several directions, like consulting, migration, implemented management support, implemented DevOps practices, improve security, creating disaster recovery scenarios, and a lot of others. Today, we will speak about AWS Well-Architected Framework. We'll speak about workloads, we'll speak about risk, opportunities, how to design improvement plan. We'll consider some best practices and, not the best practices, which could be interesting for when you design your workloads and your architecture. So let me ask you to answer the first question. Are you familiar with well-architected framework? Igor, please. Okay. Okay, thank you. So actually, most of you already familiar with well-architected framework, so it means that we may move a little faster. But still, let me give you a definition. AWS Well-Architected Framework, it's a set of design principles and best practices that helps cloud architects design, build, and operate reliable, secure, high-performant, resilient, efficient, and sustainable infrastructure for a variety of applications and workloads. Well, the first question, why we need to use this AWS Well-Architected Framework? So actually, there are several reasons behind of that. At first of them, that actually using well-architected framework allows you to answer the questions, is your workload well-architected? It allows us build and deploy faster our infrastructure, our applications, because using these best practices, we may reduce unplanned actions, improve automation, and, for example, increase capacity management. As one of outcome of applying well-architected framework to workloads, it's get risks. It means that when we know about our risks in our applications that could affect our user or impact to our business, we may lower or mitigate them before came to production. Also, well, as much as we know about decisions, operational or architectural decisions that we make during our development process, we may made better solutions, better decisions. And because AWS Well-Architected Framework could be applied to internal workloads, or it could be applied to well, as a self-assessment, it means that it allows us to learn some AWS best practices, and obviously, well, when we know more, it means that we as developers or architects are able to better design and create our applications, our infrastructure, and use any services more efficiently. Okay, actually, AWS Well-Architected Framework is a not new tool. It's quite mature. It has more than 10 years of history. At first, it was used internally by solution architect from AWS to review customers' infrastructures. Then questions were split into several pillars. New pillars were added in, and in 2018, it became publicly available through the AWS Well-Architected tool that is free service in AWS console. But product was not stopped at that moment. It still it continues to grow. New pillars, for example, new pillars was added recently, but currently more lenses are added, questions are updated, so product is under quite active development. As we already mentioned, well-architected framework is a set of questions and design principles. Questions are split to several pillars, and each questions cover several best practices that allows us to understand if a certain best practices is in place in workload or not. Also, alongside with the whole set of questions of AWS Well-Architected Framework, we may use lenses. So AWS Well-Architected lenses, it's like additional set of questions also split to pillars that focuses on particular industry or particular technology domain. For like an example of specific industry, we could mention game industry lenses, financial service industry lenses. As a technology domain, we could mention serverless application lenses, EOT lenses, and for example, SaaS lenses. So what is the purpose of lenses as an add-on for a well-architected framework? It's a special set of questions which focus exactly on aspects which are important to, well, this particular industry or technology domain. On this screenshot, we see one of the questions from SaaS lenses. For example, it's for cost optimization pillar, and it sounds like how do you measure the resource consumption of individual tenants? Well, obviously, these questions related exactly to a SaaS application and probably not too interesting or definitely out of scope of not a SaaS application. And also here on the slide, we see screenshot of AWS Well-Architected tool, which could be used to run well-architected framework reviews. And let me say several words about how it looks. So in the left column, we see pillars, we see number of questions, number of answered questions, and total questions. And in the middle side, in the middle column, we see question, short description to it, best practices that are covered by this question. And in the right side, we see shared description for each of best practices. Obviously, it's quite short definitions. And for example, here you see QR code for the whole documentation of this particular question. Maybe it will be interesting for you to learn more about that. Next key concept which I'd like to mention is workload. So for example, when I first time heard about AWS Well-Architected Framework, I expect that workload is just about cloud infrastructure. So by definition, workload identifies a set of components that deliver business value. But honestly, it's actually beyond the just a cloud infrastructure. So it should include infrastructure services, it should include teams, it should include plans, procedures, playbook, runbook, organizational processes. Because, for example, if we design cloud infrastructure that is secure, that fits all best practices, but for example, application is not designed well, and due to some, developer mistake, it could expose all data from database. It means that, well, our business will be affected because our application, well, mm, create a data breach. And it means, so that is why a well-architected framework actually should cover more than just cloud infrastructure. So as I mentioned, it actually cloud application processes, how to mitigate risk, how to answer security incident, and so on. Just another example about organizational processes. So for example, if cloud infrastructure is secure, but something happened and we have incident response, but we don't have adequate process how to respond this incident, it also will be left without proper observation and the proper reaction. And that is why AWS Well-Architected Framework contains questions about, all different aspects of workloads. Now let me speak about pillars. So as I mentioned, well-architected framework has several pillars. So currently there are 6 pillars. There are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and sustainability. Most of these, names are quite self-described. So that is why we understand that, for example, operational pillars include the ability of support development and run workload effectively, gain insight into their operation, and continuously improve supporting processes and procedures. For example, security, it's about ability our workload be secure and protect data infrastructure and so on. But we should understand that on the one hand, using pillars or focus to pillars means that we need to focus on particular aspects of our workload. On the other hand, we should understand that each workload should have some trade-offs between pillars. So for example, we may use a lot of different security services and harden our workload, our infrastructure as much as possible. But obviously these services will cost something. Most of them are not free, and it means that if we don't have business requirement to do so, it means that this workload will not be cost efficient. So in the focus of cost optimization pillar, we just will not be well designed. In the same way, we may discuss that performance efficiency could be like contradicted with reliability, and that is why for each workload we should define which pillars are most important and how to find adequate trade-off between them. So please answer the next question. What do you consider the most important when adopting cloud services? Igor?
Ilya, you have some questions in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, while we're waiting for answering this answer, okay, I have a question. Would you like, Ilya? Oops. Oh, Okay, thank you. Actually, I'd like to say the same. So we definitely will be able to like speak more about that, but probably at the next seminars. So, okay, thank you for answering. I see that the three most important pillars and directions are security, reliability, and okay, probably two of them. And sustainability. Sustainability is a modern one. It's well, from my point of view, it's indeed required additional like efforts to review. Okay, thank you. So next thing which I'd like to mention that actually behind despite best practices and design principle are split into two pillars, there are some general design principles. Well, I guess that most of you all, well, are familiar with benefits of cloud computing services. So probably you see that, well, these principles are like related to benefits of cloud computing services. But still, it could be like applied not just exactly to cloud. So first of them, so let me quickly go through this principle. So first of them, it's stop guessing your capacity needs. It means that we should like create our architecture in order not to like be able to cover everything which could be happen. So it means that we need to create elastic and flexible architectural workloads that could be scaled exactly based on our needs. Using cloud services allows us to create additional environment quite quickly, especially if everything is automated. And it means that, for example, in order to run a load test, integration test, we are able to increase our test system up to production scale, run this test, get results, and then shut down and pay only for that short time. So as a result, we able to test our system at a good scale. We need to automate everything that is possible to allow play, adopt, and experiment with architecture quickly, because we like using automation script allows us to quickly add resources or remove resources and test how application works. Obviously, we need to create architecture in that way that allows architecture to evolve. So it should not be static. It should not be like fixed at one-time event. Cloud services allows us to do that much simpler than, for example, using on-premise services. We need to understand how our decision affect our architecture, our outcome, and due to this, we need to increase and extend our architecture. And another thing which also included as a best practice is to AWS Well-Architected Framework. It's excuse me. So it's game names when it's a special event when you run when you test how your organizational processes could react on some incident, and then understand if will we be able to answer on this incident or events in real life. Also, I assume that everyone saw this picture before about shared responsibility model. So classic version, it's about security, that AWS is responsible of security for security of the cloud, so for physical assets, for physical facilities, servers, networking, and so on. But customer is responsible for security in the cloud. So AWS provides services, provide recommendation, provide documentation how it should be implemented, but actually it's solely responsibility of customer to implement our infrastructure in that way that it's secure in that way, so it should be secure. Actually, the same shared responsibility model could be adopted for any of our pillars. So, for example, performance efficiency. AWS is creating physical infrastructure in that way, so it like should it in that way, so it should be performance efficient, but and provide services for us as a customers to get enough capacity or use different instance families in order to design our workload and use those resources which provide us enough performance. But it's customer responsibility to use the services to understand which options do we have and implement our workload and application in that way. Because I saw these questions about sustainability, I'd like to pay a bit more attention to shared sustainability responsibility model. So actually, we see here the same. AWS is responsible for creating infrastructure in that way, so it should decrease energy consumption. It should decrease water consumption, decrease waste. Use more like eco-friendly building materials and so on. But AWS provides us recommendation to use resources in that way that our workloads will use less physical resources that allows us to decrease energy consumption, decrease water consumption, and so on. Next, what I'd like to speak about is AWS Well-Architected Framework reviews. So please answer the next question. How often are you involved in well-architected reviews? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Thank you for answering. So almost one half of attendees today never or just rarely was involved in well-architected reviews. So it means that, definitely you need to do that more often. So later we'll speak about that actually reviews is continuously improvement process. So it's not just like one-time event. And Svitla Systems has enough knowledge to help you with well-architected framework reviews. What we learn from doing these reviews? So actually, it's better to use it early. So it means that using the, excuse me. Okay. So if we implement our reviews at early stages of workload development, it means that we will be able to identify risk at early stages, and we will have more time to mitigate them and improve our architecture or improve our application. Another thing that if some decision doesn't fit best practice, it doesn't mean that it's a bad decision. So probably it was just about because it was neglected. So we don't do backup because we forget about that, or this particular feature was missed in business requirements. And walking through review allows to pay attention of these potential risks, and in this case, for example, add data backup in order to has data backup if some incident occur. And actually, it leads us to the next finding that most workload could be implemented, can be improved. Actually, AWS Well-Architected Framework contains a lot of questions, and it means that, it covers a lot of best practices. So it means that it could point to some, additional practices which we didn't include in our business requirement at the stage of, creating project. Well-architected framework reviews could be used in various use cases. So because we already mentioned that it allows to learn best practices, well, it could be used for internal reviews or self-assessment to learn best practices of the cloud. It could be used for technology governance because complex projects are developed by different teams, and such review allows to check that all decisions are consistent through all work of different teams. And also another, I guess it's a very important use case for well-architected framework reviews. It could be used to support migrations. We know that usually migration is separated to 3 stages. It's asset, mobilize, and migration stages. And at the assess stage, or assess phase, we may use review in order to understand, current stage of particular workload. For example, when we go to migrate and modernize phase, we may use reviews in order to see that we are improving our workload by decreasing number of risks, and each our AWS Well-Architected tool has such feature as milestones, and we may fix current stage, run it once again, and compare with previous stage and it gives us view, does we improve our workload. And as I mentioned, AWS provide AWS Well-Architected tool that gives us and give our customers and to run reviews. So first of all, it's a tool that is actually a service that provide consistent process of measuring our AWS architecture against best practices. Workload, we already spoke about that. It could be defined by defining set of resources that provide our business value. Reviews is a continuous improvement mechanism that helps customers consistently evaluate their workloads against AWS best practices. So purpose of reviewing architecture is to identify any critical issues that need to be addressed or areas that need to be improved. And as outcome of review, we get a list of high-risk issues that operational or architectural decisions that could be considered by AWS as something that is critical and could affect your as a business or customers, negatively affect your business or customers. Medium risk issues, well, it's also like critical that also might negatively impact businesses, but well, to a lesser extent. And the final part, it's when we start reviewing high risk issues and medium risk issues, we need to prioritize them, define a plan, and create a detailed treatment or improvement plan, how to address these risks. Intent of review, it's not a audit. It's better to ability to working together to review infrastructure. It should be done in a blame-free approach when different people working together, and it gives ability to dive deep into particular workload. Because set of questions were designed not just like something ephemeral, but based on real customer architectures. It means that they're pragmatic, they're not has solid practical background. And also, as I mentioned, it's not like one-time check. So that is why we advise you to run reviews for your workload more often. And it should be like built into application lifecycle based on different stages of this application. When we preparing for review, we need to define our workload. I mentioned that workload could include application, it could include infrastructure, team, processes, and so on. But for each particular review, we may define scope of our workload, and for example, define which questions could be out of scope. Then we need to identify workload sponsor. So it should be like a stakeholder who owns, could be like a product owner or knows enough about this workload. And for each pillars, we need to define the subject matter expert that are called like a pillar sponsor who will be able to answer best practices. To answer questions about how best practices are implemented for for this workload. And review process by itself, we may split to 3 phases. First of them, it's to prepare. So as I mentioned, we need to define workload, we need to scope workload, and identify sponsors. Next step is actually review by itself. We need to review workload, we need to record result, publish reports about which risks were found. Here we need to understand that before review, we should spend some time to define time, discuss should it be done like a one-time event, for example, for one working day, or should it be split to several sessions with different persons. Also, we, for example, may define workload and consider not like all pillars, but just several of them, based on what is the most important for your particular workload and like at your particular moment of life cycle of this workload. Then after we done review, we walk through questions, answer on them about best practices I'm addressed in this workload or not. We will get a list of risks. At the final stage, we need to prioritize them, review them, and then we need to go through all of them with customers and define a treatment plan, how we will mitigate them or address them. Probably because you mentioned that a lot of our attendees today are familiar with well-architected framework. Probably you see it previously, but just let me quickly fresh your knowledge. So when we understanding and prioritizing risks, we answer several questions. So for example, is it possible, how probability of that particular risk will impact our workload? What would be customer impact or what would be business impact? For example, it could be like different impacts, like lost sales, loss of market share, longer time to market, or for example, brand reputation damage. Then based on all define it, what this particular risk means for our workload, we may discuss, can the risk be removed or only mitigated? Based on that, we will define how we address it. Then we need to define a person who owns this risk and who owns the improvement work. Improvement workflow actually looks like a well-known AWS flywheel. And at first stage, so we may start with this purple arrow. At first, we identify risk and improvement opportunities. After review, we get this list of particular risk. Then at prioritizing stage, we understand risks and improvement opportunities. Then we need to determine prescriptive solutions. We need to address the issues that takes the greater priority based on potential impact and level of effort required to implement implement them and eliminate as many risks as possible at the same time. After that, as we determine solutions, we need to implement those solutions that has a greatest priority from the business perspective. And well, at the final step, we need to run improvement we need implement and track improvements, check improvement progress, and define benefits and which we achieved after this review. Because we already asked about which pillars are most important, and we saw that, for example, security pillar is quite important. Let me say several words about security pillars. So this is security pillar is the second pillar in the list of 6 AWS Well-Architected Framework pillars. And by definition, security pillar encompasses the ability to protect data, systems, and assets to take advantage of cloud technologies to improve your workload security. This is a QR code to the whole documentation if you'd like to learn more about that. Obviously, behind security pillars, there are some design principles. So there are such principles as, at first, we need to implement a strong identity foundation. We need to implement principle of least privilege. We need to understand that each resource and each user should have its own identity. We should avoid assessment of excessive permissions. We need, for example, use short living credential instead of long living credential and so on. We need to enable traceability of events of each security events that could happen in the system. Security should be applied on all layers. So, for example, referring to that example which I mentioned previously, if, for example, you put even WAF before web ICL before your web services, it means that you still need to care about putting, for example, web application containers or instances in private subnet instead of expose them to public subnet. You need to define a database, protect database. You need to protect data in transit and in its rest by using encryption, secrets, keys. You need to automate security practices. So it means that some responses could be automated. Dashboard could be implemented in order to inform about security events. Another principles that, for example, that we should keep people away from data. So in the sense that there should not be manual work where it could be avoided. And the final principles that we need to be prepared for security events, because even if we created our architecture in the most secure way, it means that sometimes security event happened and we need to have enough runbook and playbook to be able to address them. Best practices are quite related to what we discussed right now. We need to implement strong security foundation. We need to implement a defined and access management. So what we already know, already mentioned, we need to provide list. We need to use least privilege approach. We need to add policies whenever it's possible. We may, for example, for S3, we should put policies, block public access if it's not expected to be publicly accessible. We may add, for example, access point based on our architecture if we need to provide special access to some resources or other parties. We need to implement detection of security events, and we need to implement protection of our infrastructure and of our data. We need to care about application security and use some services like, for example, AWS message that allows to well, monitor data and inform about potential, confidential data leaks. We need to implement playbook runbook to be able to respond on incident or events. And let me ask you to choose security pillar best practices. So please, Igor, share the next question. And you see several, well, answers. Please choose what you think is the best practices. There are a little difference of some of them about best practices area, about best practices or particular like best practices actions. Some of them like anti-pattern or like bad practices. Okay, let me give you, well, a little more time to answer. Okay, good. Igor, could you share results? So thank you for answering. This is like best practices which with marks and with cross, not the best practices. Well, set MFA for root user only. It's a quite weird questions because set MFA is definitely a best practices. But well, you see that questions formulated as set MFA for root user only. And it means so actually best practices is about to set in MFA for all users that has access to AWS console for a particular account. I'm happy that, well, just several answers about granting excessive permissions to advanced users. So it's the same because, well, we need to use at least access privilege for approach for any users because, well, even advanced users sometimes, well, human make mistakes, and it means that even advanced users may make mistake and well, do something wrong. So if they will not have, too huge set of permissions, it means that you will be able in like proactive way to decrease probability of such situation. Obviously, insufficient data classification is not a good practice because based on data classifications, we should define which data are sensitive, which data are confident, and based on this classification, we will protect them in different way. Because public data, well, it could be put to public S3 bucket, and we don't need to protect that. But if data is confidential, we definitely need put more efforts to protect. And obviously, the last one, storing sensitive data without encryption, well, it's also not a good practice because it's sensitive data. Thank you. So, for example, let me share with you one more screenshot about security question number 8, which obviously is included to security pillar. Here we see that it covers some of best practices which we just exactly discussed. For example, enforced access control and enforced encryption at rest. That is related to protect sensitive data. Okay, and this is a QR code that leads to this documentation of these questions if you'd like to learn more. Next pillar, which I also like to put additional attention, it's cost optimization pillar. And this is like fifth pillar in default order, but for some workloads, it definitely should be one of the most important pillars. By definition, cost optimization pillar is about creating cost-optimized workload that fully utilize all resources, achieves an outcome at lowest possible price point, and meet functional requirements of the workload. This QR code to documentation, and in our another seminar about cost optimization and cost management, we spoke about some best practices and principles, how we may manage our cost, and as soon as we able to manage it and have a visibility of cost, we may optimize them. Design principles in these pillars, well, the following. So at first we need to practice cloud financial management. It's about well, observability of assigning who is responsible for which resources. It's adding like resource visibility from cost point. It's about collaboration between different teams. We need to adopt consumption model. It means that we need to pay only for those resources which we really use. And well, obviously remove those resources which we don't need, and well, it decreases our overall bill. We need to measure overall efficiency because we need to understand that this particular resource, even if this resource like has the lowest possible price, correspond to what it need to do. Because well, because for example, if our EC2 instances is too high for workload, it's probably not optimized. And for example, if some workload is not so important, we may decrease resources. We need to decrease performance of this particular workload, and as a result, pay less for that. Heavy lifting, it's just came from using on premises, because in cloud we don't need to pay upfront for some significant infrastructure if we don't need that. Well, we may pay only for resources that are used. We still has ability to pay upfront, but it's about reservation and saving plans that actually are best practices. And that is the most quite important principle. We need to analyze and attribute our expenditures. So we need to understand, and well, actually organization should understand which resources are like which departments or teams own which resources, or which workload owns which resources. And then based on that, we may analyze that this particular workload is cost optimized or not. Related to these design principles, we may mention the best practice areas. So first, we need to practice cloud financial management, and from the point of how to implement, well, we need to establish cost optimization function. So it should be a person or even a team, if workload is huge, which, well, care about cost optimization. We need to establish partnership between financial team and technology teams, because financial see only like bills, technology understand which resources are created. But in partnerships, they need to understand and estimate that, well, this particular workload is designed in cost optimized way. Obviously, best practice, we need to establish budget and forecast. We need to report at permanent base about cost optimization. Other best practice areas that we need to be awareness of usage. We need to use cost-effective resources. We need to manage on demand. We should not create resources which we are not used. Also, AWS provides issue new services, new features all the time, and it means that we need to be ready to implement these new features, because in most cases, for example, new instance family are cheaper than previous ones, but has higher productivity, higher performance, and that is why time to time we need to check that and move our workload to the newest services. Okay, and now the question is similar to what we answered before about security pillar. So please, could you choose cost optimization pillar best practices? Okay, good. Thank you for answering that. So Igor, please share results. Okay, well, I see that all best practices are checked, so thank you for that. First one, using budget and forecast is required for enterprise only. Well, sorry, it's also a bit weird question, because budget and forecast should be used for any workload, even for example, from my own experience. I didn't set budget for quick check for some features, and I forget about these resources, and then at the end of month I was like a bit surprised by my bill of my personal account. I happy that no one marked control cost is a responsibility of financial team, because yes, indeed, it's a responsibility of collaboration between financial and technology teams. Cost optimized benefits are just cost reduction and avoidance. And no, actually, cost optimization benefits are beyond just cost reduction, because it's gives you a more value than just money we spend on particular resources. In our previous seminar about cost optimization, we discussed that, and at the end of session I will demonstrate a link to that, so if you'd like, you may review that. Also, insufficient training is obviously not a best practice. We need to train our teams. We need to train by itself in order to know more, because as soon as we know more about how to implement best practices, we will be able to create better infrastructure, better applications. As for previous questions, it's screenshot from AWS Well-Architected tool. Question, how do you implement cloud financial management? First question in cost optimization pillar, and you see some of best practices which we discussed in in previous poll. Okay, good. So let me summarize what we consider. We discussed about well-architected framework approach. We discussed how it could be like used to meet our business goals, how it could be used to improve our workloads, how we may prioritize and mitigate risks. We actually discussed that well-architected framework allows us to have more efficient and more healthy applications and infrastructures. There are some useful resources. First, links about leads to AWS documentation, where you learn more, and last two to AWS to Svitla AWS Managed Services and Solutions, and the cost optimization seminar, which I mentioned previously. Sorry. Okay, so what's next? If you'd like, if you need help with organizing well-architected reviews, we are more than happy. We'll assist you in this question. I saw some questions about sustainability, so probably if you'd like to learn more about well-architected review focused on sustainability, you might mention that in feedback form. QR code for that you see right now on the screen. And if you'd like also learn more about well-architected review focused on cost optimization or security, please mention that in feedback form, and we will put our best efforts trying to make next seminars focused on these pillars interesting and helpful for you. Okay, we have just several minutes. I see some questions. Okay, and let me answer the last one. As most organizations are going multi-cloud, did any other cloud service provider also have similar frameworks? Answer is yes. It's for example, Azure provides a well-architected framework, so it's called quite a simpler way. But actually, this AWS well-architected framework designed by AWS could be applied to, actually it's cloud agnostic, so it could be applied to cloud infrastructure in different, designed or created by different cloud service providers. So it could be applied to hybrid infrastructure and even for on-premise. Probably some questions will be out of scope. And the AWS well-architected tool allows move some questions out of scope of review, and it means that they will not be included to or considered as a risked issue. But yes, this AWS well-architected framework could be applied to different solutions, including hybrid infrastructures. Okay, next question I probably will answer in the following follow-up mails. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention. I hope this seminar was helpful and interesting for you.